Welcome to the Executive Cybersecurity Podcast, Cyber Risk Management Driving Real Impact. I'm Dr. Bill Souza. Today is a continuation of our previous podcast where we talk about the 5 challenges of cybersecurity. We quantify the risk and we touch a little bit in terms of assessment. Today, that continuation will be discussing impact and probability. Those fuzzy areas in risk calculation that we all suffer when we ask the question, what is the impact if the risk occurred? And what is the probability? So it's sort of a fuzzy area for us to discuss. But I want to make sure that you understand what your role is and what you are planning to calculate and what you're delivering overall, right? Because you will be doing this from a cybersecurity perspective. You need to define what you want. Is that risk and probability to a particular project that you're involved? This risk probability is related to the area of responsibility or for the greater good, right? Is this risk calculation, the probability impact is for the organization and the strategic business objective of the organization, their capability of delivering that. That is a whole other level of calculation. The numbers for each of these scenarios will change drastically. So you need, first of all, right, any good research, define your problem statement. Define what you're trying to deliver here. Having said that, the approach, the formula, if you will be the same regardless. You're just going to have to apply to the environment, to the use case scenario that you're trying to approach. The product of this exercise will look like a table. And what you're going to measure, then the scale that it will vary. It depends on your organization. Could be a simple as low, medium, high, or can be something like very likely, medium, unlikely, and remote. That's just throwing some ideas for you, and you will decide that on your organization, or is already decided for you. The other one, you can use a 5-point scale, such as very low, low, medium, high, and very high, which also is typical in risk registers. Perhaps that is already decided for you. If you're not, you can get these as sort of an ideas as you move forward. Now, what is important is what you put next in that table, if you will. That you will start in terms of probability, in terms of years. For example, a very likely or a very high probability could be something that is greater than once in every 2 years. Right? You can decide that expectation of event frequency in years, or some other measuring that you decide in your organization. Once again, it's very flexible, but usually what you see is within years. And from a remote perspective, I'll give you, both ends of the spectrum. On a remote or very low probability, could it be something that is less than once every 100 years, right? Something like the pandemic that we're passing right now, or a severe weather event, whatever that is decided in your organization, you can have that scale from more than once every 2 years to less than one every 100 years, and then you fill in between. But I'll give you some examples to fill in between and what are those numbers going to look like, and you can adjust that in your organization. So let's say likely or a high is 1 in every 2 years or 1 every 5 years. A medium would be perhaps 1 every 5 years, and 1 every 20 years. And for a high or a low, for that matter, will be 1 in every 20 years, or 1 in every 100 years. So to give you sort of an example as you try to decide on your own. You can adopt this sort of time scale, or you can create on your own. That will vary in terms of what you're assessing. Once again, measure to that impact. Now, let's touch a little bit on impact. impact could be an impact to operations, impact to reputations, impact to financially. Most of this, in terms of cybersecurity, will be tied to an impact to a financial situation to the organization. And I'll use this scale once again for a 5-point scale as an example for you, from a very low to a very high. And that could be a very low impact financially. A loss for the organization would be between from $0 to $1,000, as an example. A low would be $1,000 to $5,000. A medium, $5,000 to $10,000. A high, $10,000 to $50,000, and a very high would be somewhere $50,000 to $100,000 if there's a realized risk with that particular impact. Now, you can add another 0 to that, depends on the size of your organization. You can take a 0 off of that, depending on the size of your organization. Either or, that is the sort of an impact calculation. So, and at the end of the day, you will have 2 tables, right? Now, the measuring scale needs to match, because when you start putting them together to make the calculation, remember, risk is probability times impact. So you're going to get a high from the probability against, let's say, a high for impact, and you multiply those numbers. So you cannot have a mismatch in terms of measurement, like likely to match to a low or whatnot, right? Now, yes, you can. This 5-point scale is going to measure the same thing, but it will be hard for your communication, because you're going to have to communicate your results, and then you're going to have to explain why they match. Make it easier on yourself. Make sure the scale is the same. And then you're going to have to do the calculation. Now, having these 2 tables with 5 points scale, you will be able to apply the risk formula. Once again, probability times impact, that give you a risk, and you have an idea what would be the impact and probability of any risk event on your organization. Right? Does that make sense? If you're not, just leave a comment, send me an email. I'll be glad to address your question personally. And but that's it. Is a fuzzy area to calculate, but it's not impossible. I gave you some examples today that you can use as a starting point, and eventually you'll be able to address this on your own as you move forward in your organization. This is it for today, folks. I appreciate your listening. Your time is very valuable, and I appreciate that you gave me your attention in these few minutes. So subscribe on iTunes, leave me a comment, send me an email. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you.